Hi, Gerald Cipolla of the Cipolla Law Group. We're a law firm that focuses on immigration law. And today I'd like to talk about the new immigration policy that affects a lot of international students. And that policy is students are now, as of August 9th, 2018, that aren't maintaining their student status, going to accrue a thing called unlawful presence. So what's unlawful presence and why is this important? So before we go to unlawful presence, I want to kind of give a little background on students. When students enter the United States, when they enter, they'll get an I-94 or a departure, or an entry stamp, and it'll say F1, and at the bottom will say D/S, duration status, duration studies, heard different meanings for it. But eventually it means just you can stay in the U.S. till you complete your studies, and then you have to find another immigration status, or et cetera, et cetera. So students don't accrue a thing called unlawful presence unless a USCIS or an immigration judge deems that person out of status. So this is in comparison to, say, someone who comes on a tourist visa is supposed to depart the U.S. January 1st, stays until January 10th of the following year, and so after January 1st, they start to accrue a thing called unlawful presence. So if you get 6 months or more of unlawful presence, depart the United States, so leave the U.S., you'll trigger a thing called a 3-year bar. And that means you can't apply for, to come back to the U.S. within 3 years, or you have to get a waiver or granted forgiveness or a pardon. Different cultures have different meanings for it, but in the U.S. we call that a waiver. If someone gets a year or more of unlawful presence, departs the U.S., and wants to come back, they'd be triggering the 10-year bar, so they can't come back within 10 years unless they can get a waiver. Students didn't fall into that category. So if, say, a student just stopped studying or fell out of status for some reason, they wouldn't accrue that unlawful presence unless an immigration judge or USCIS deemed that person out of status, which is not the norm. So beginning August 9th, 2018, students are now going to accrue unlawful presence if they fall out of status. So what does that mean? So say a student just abruptly stops studying, don't communicate with their international department, can't find a way to sort of keep their status. Well, when they stop studying, they're going to accrue that unlawful presence. And the significance of that is what I just said. If they depart the U.S., they're going to be subject to that bar. Sometimes there's ways around unlawful presence, but it makes your situation more complicated. So if you're a student and you think you might fall out of status, get in close communication with your DSO, your international department. Talk to an immigration lawyer. Do some preventative medicine before this happens, because once it happens, the damage may be done. So stay tuned as more developments occur. We're going to keep you abreast, so like us on Facebook, subscribe to our videos, send us your questions. We love to hear from you. Thank you.